Hermitcraft Infinity. Welcome back to Hermitcraft Infinity. All right. Well, as you can see, there's been a little bit of change here. Let's see. It has been something of an adventure too, because, oh man, making the components for this thing, this turbine, it was a real adventure. Most of the stuff was no problem. Set up a little bit of auto crafting, place a couple of orders, and bang, there it is. But this stuff, the ludicrate blocks, I think they are aptly named because the amount of time it takes to make them is ludicrous completely. I started this, I set up the auto crafting for everything, the whole deal for every step of making those, and then I placed an order in the system for 32 ludicrate blocks, and then I ended up waiting hours. I ran out of keep busy things to do while I was waiting for it, and I actually fell asleep waiting for these things. It took something in the neighborhood of like 4 or 5 hours for it to make 32 of those ludicrate blocks. That is ridiculous. But I went with that based on recommendation and because of what I've read. Apparently that is the best material to use for the coils in the turbine. But got the whole thing going, and I had a heck of a time getting this thing to where it's actually producing. Because at first, no matter what I did, the reactor would only produce 400 millibuckets per tick, even if I had the control rods completely all the way pulled out. And that's insane, because it's, when you do that, it's using like 27, almost 28 millibuckets per tick in fuel. You know, it's going through ingots one every 3 or 4 seconds or something like that, and so on. But now I've got the rods 96% inserted. It's just barely nicely ticking over. 2,000 millibuckets a tick steady, and fairly low fuel usage. It's keeping the steam full. I've got a couple of aqueous accumulators over here that are supplying the reactor with water, necessary in order to get it filled up to start with at the very least. And then here, there was another problem with the piping. I originally was using Ender IO pressurized fluid conduits, and again, I couldn't get enough steam into the turbine for it to do anything. And I eventually ended up switching over to the transfer type, the extra utilities transfer pipe. And I've got some upgrades in here. And this is nicely enough to make it actually move the steam in here fast enough so that I'm having a steady 2,000 millibuckets of steam in here. And as you can see, it's running just under 1,800 RPM. Producing 28,000 RF per tick, and yeah, that is great. It took me about a day and a half of fussing around with this and that and the other, but it's running good, and now I know how to duplicate this, because given the way the reactor's going here, I could build considerably more of these turbines, each one putting out 28,000 RF tick, and that would be awesome. Way powered overpower. Enough to really charge the daylights out of that energy ball up topside. And I'm going to think about doing that, but I'm going to have something else coming up soon first that I'm going to do before I do any more turbine building or power expansion or anything like that. But this thing, oh man, it was a pain to get going. It was a royal pain to figure out how this thing worked, because what little stuff I could find wasn't really very clearly expressed, I'll put it that way. it could have been expressed a lot more clearly. Like, for example, with the turbine blades. I didn't realize that you could put 2 blades on each side, on all 4 sides of the shaft. So I had the shaft and then 1 blade coming off of each of the 4 sides, and I didn't realize that you could put 2 on each side of the shaft. So there's now 80 blades in there, whereas before I had 40 and wondered why I had so many extra. But that got figured out, and it's now spinning up. What I have to do, basically, disengage the coils, and that lets the rotor speed ramp up really fast, and then you re-engage the coils, because the coils drag down the rotor speed and make it take a lot longer. If you don't disengage the coils, from starting it up cold, it will take maybe 20-25 minutes to ramp up to 1800 RPM or thereabouts. And you can do it a lot faster by just disengaging the coils. It took me a while to figure that out. It's kind of shameful, but there you go. Meanwhile, this reactor is producing plenty of power, more power than is being pulled from the energy ball, so it's actually charging. And in some point in the future, I plan to expand this, having multiple turbines, and probably build them vertical to pack more into the same kind of space, and so forth. But that's pretty much what's going on. I did already record this episode, and it was the whole building it and figuring it out thing. I had it all going and had it all recorded. I got it into the editor, and the footage was corrupted. And by corrupted, I mean the microphone did not get recorded for any of that. And so rather than tear this whole thing down and then redo everything from scratch, I just decided I'd be better off to do a little bit of a walkthrough of the thing and just a show and tell thing, because that's just more sensible. There's no point in tearing this whole thing down just to rebuild it for a video. Anyway, that's pretty much what's going on. I've got some plans coming up soon for a serious change to this base, and that is going to happen sometime really soon. Just a quick addendum here. I decided to try an experiment. I went ahead and I turned the reactor off and let it cool down considerably, most of the way down to like 200 or something like that. And then I went up topside and I set the control rods to just 1%, so that they're inserted 99%. And then I restarted the reactor. That was about 5 or 10 minutes ago. It's running at a steady 500-ish degrees, still producing 2,000 millibuckets a tick, keeping up very nicely, and fuel usage 0.29 millibuckets a tick. Not bad. So that's very minimal fuel usage, and it's still providing all the steam this thing can possibly need, because it is still running 1787.4 or 0.3 RPM. It's still settling. It'll probably settle around 1785 or 86 or something like that. And it's just working great. That is awesome. All right. Just wanted to add that little addendum in there, that this reactor as it is basically is probably 40 or 50 times the reactor that this one turbine needs. So in the future there will be more turbines for certain. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out.